And now your host, Richard Thomas.
Hello, and welcome to It's a Miracle. If you've ever doubted that our lives can be transformed by the love and compassion of another person, then the stories you're about to see will change your mind. What makes them especially convincing is that the other person in each of them was a complete stranger. We begin where lives should have ended, the scene of a fiery plane crash. On January 30th, 1983, paramedic Kevin Rolfe was on duty in Alachua County, Florida, when an emergency dispatch came through.
Alachua 1111, advise District 6 I'll be taking the call at the airstrip. Show me en route.
The call came in as a crash of a light plane on takeoff with fire involved, and that there were 4 people inside the plane. Light planes generally don't do very well. So there's usually severe injuries, and the fact that there were 4 people involved in the plane, they would probably overwhelm the initial responders.
Kevin's instincts were correct. All 4 passengers had been badly injured.
When I arrived, I was given a briefing on the seriousness of the injuries and a brief rundown on each individual patient.
Working on one over there that has 95% burns. We tried an IV without any luck. We're concentrating on these other ones.
I was told that the one that was most critically injured had extensive burns over her entire body. And she had been triaged out, and they didn't expect that she was going to live.
But something told Kevin to check on her again.
Ma'am, can you hear me? What's your name?
Cheryl.
I was very surprised to find her awake and responsive.
Okay. I'm going to be putting an
I had never seen anybody burned as extensively as this woman was, that was still lucid and still aware of her surroundings and still able to communicate.
Get an IV prepped for you. I'm not going to leave you. I'm right here the whole time.
My heart went out because I too expected that she was going to die soon.
Your arm. Put your arm in.
As a caregiver, I wanted to make certain that she didn't die alone.
I'm not going to feel anything.
And that she knew that there were people who cared, that she wasn't by herself.
Hang in there, because everything's going to be okay.
It was very apparent in talking to her that she wanted to live. And so I wanted to give her that chance.
True to his word, Kevin stayed with the young woman until she was transported to the hospital.
I didn't expect that she would make it to the hospital. I fully expected that she probably would die en route. And if she did make it to the hospital, she probably would die very shortly after arriving. And was truly surprised that she was still alive when I walked into the emergency department.
Take a couple deep breaths for me. I got an 18 in the right breath. Bear with.
Patients who were burned that extensively just didn't survive.
Got lines? Got lines? Okay, good.
Nurse Joyce Welch was part of the Shands Hospital burn team fighting to save Cheryl's life.
Again, ma'am.
70 over 32.
When I first looked at Cheryl, my opinion of her for survival was very slim. Her entire body was completely burned except for the soles of her feet.
She's pretty bad.
No, here.
And her injuries were making it impossible for her to tell the doctors something they desperately needed to know.
Ma'am, are you allergic to anything?
She was very agitated that nobody seemed to be listening to her.
Okay.
This is Kevin.
Have we got that Foley in yet?
And that's when I bent down and asked her, what are you trying to tell us?
Doc, she's pregnant.
Okay.
And that's when she said that she was pregnant, that she couldn't have any x-rays and she couldn't have any drugs.
We're trying to do everything we can to save her life here, okay?
Of course, they looked at me like I was crazy. Didn't I understand that she was dying? And they were just trying to save her life.
Let's get that taped up.
Dr. Joseph Leon was faced with a terrible
We
decision.
need to get some antibiotics going.
Cheryl was quite early on, and so there was concern that the drugs that we might have to use could affect a fetus in an adverse manner, but we were sort of stuck. The most important issue at that time was to make sure Cheryl didn't die.
The extraordinary efforts of the burn team delivered Cheryl through the first critical 24 hours. But saving her 3-month-old fetus was beyond their power.
It's Mom. It was something that we had no control over. and we knew that the baby was lost.
I love you so much.
Cheryl's mother, Suzanne Kirk, stayed by her daughter's side to give her support through the difficult days ahead.
You're gonna be fine.
It was a mother's worst fear that something horrible would happen to one of their kids.
The doctor said that you're doing really good.
And I have to stand by and absolutely helpless, except prayer.
I love you, sweetheart.
At risk for multiple complications, Cheryl's recovery was by no means certain.
You do wonderful.
The doctors informed us that Cheryl would never be able to be a functional person.
We love you.
That if she was able to leave the hospital, which they greatly doubted, that she would not be able to have a full life.
Just relax. Breathe.
Cheryl's recovery would require months of hospitalization and much more.
It requires, first of all, a reasonable physiology. Cheryl was young and pretty healthy. She had that.
It eases up as you do more. Keep going.
It requires an experienced medical nursing team.
All the way down. You can do it.
It requires a determination that will not allow you to give up. Because it's one thing to say, I'm going to make it on day 1. But how about day 250? It's a little tougher then. And she was determined to pull through all of that, no matter what.
Okay, left hand forward.
Walking was very, very difficult for Cheryl. She had to learn how to walk all over again.
Right hand forward.
She had to learn how to use her hands without her fingers.
Okay, stop right there.
It's kind of like starting all over from a baby. Cheryl basically had to go learn all these things all over again.
Bring it up there. Push yourself, push yourself.
Part of Cheryl's determination came from the memory of the voice she'd heard at the scene of the accident.
You just hang in there, everything's gonna be okay.
The first thing I remember the voice saying was, hang in there, everything's gonna be okay.
What's your name?
The voice was very comforting. The kind of voice that you would expect if you knew what God's voice was.
It's gonna be okay. You just hang in there, everything's gonna be okay.
My guardian angel told me everything was gonna be okay, and I believed that. Then I got in the emergency room, and I started feeling a little anxious about all of these people acting like there was really something bad wrong with me. All of a sudden, and I don't remember hearing the voice again, but I remembered feeling this warmth and the presence. I could feel him.
And the memory stayed with Cheryl throughout her long and difficult recovery.
There were a lot of times that I would start getting discouraged or depressed. But, that little voice in the back of my mind, reflecting on that, hang in there and everything will be okay. I asked a lot of people, and nobody seemed to be able to tell me who the person was who went with the voice. And after a while, I started believing that it was just a voice that I either imagined or manufactured talking to me, and that there wasn't really a person that went with the voice.
But her pain was far from over. Shortly after her release, Cheryl's husband filed for divorce. It was a devastating and emotional blow.
My feelings were that if the person that I had been married to for the last 4 years wasn't able to accept me, then there was no way I could expect somebody else that I didn't know who was willing to deal with that. I pretty much resigned myself to the fact that I was going to be by myself with my animals. I became one of those dog people that didn't have a man in their life.
Hi, guys. Hi. Hey, be nice to her.
I found that the one constant, no matter what happened to me or what I looked like, my animals didn't care. And the animals still accepted me for me. They loved me, the way I was.
You just have fun doing anything, don't you?
And I think a lot of the things that I had to do with dogs was therapeutic for me.
Hey.
I seemed to heal up pretty quick.
Cheryl went on to become a professional breeder and trainer of German Shepherds, and after nearly 6 years and dozens of surgeries, her life was full, active, and happy.
Hello?
But Cheryl had no idea that life was about to deal her another dramatic surprise.
Good, what's up?
I got a phone call from a lady who was looking for a dog for someone who is involved in doing search and rescue work.
Oh, okay, good. I
Told her that I did have a dog that I thought would be very suitable for that kind of work.
Did he let you know when he would like to come out?
And so she made an appointment to show the dog to the
Okay.
prospective client. It turned out to be none other than Kevin Rolfe.
Hi.
Kevin, you called about the puppy?
Oh, yeah.
I recognized her name.
She's down here.
I know there's a lot of Cheryl Bakers. That's a pretty common name. And I really didn't know anything more about her,
And he's really laid back.
but it was very obvious that she was a burn survivor.
You know, if you like her, I think.
Good-looking dog.
Yeah, she's a pretty girl.
And I didn't really say anything to her at the time. We started talking about the dogs.
Say hi. Say hi. Good girl. Good girl. He did like the dog liked him. I mean, they were a great pair. I'll show you what you need to sign.
As we were filling out the paperwork, he said,
You know, I gotta tell you, you look a lot better than the last time I saw you.
and I thought, well, this guy must be crazy because I don't look very good right now.
When was that?
Well, I was at your airplane crash.
Oh, you were?
Yeah.
I'd had a lot of people ask me about the accident, and I didn't mind talking about it. But that's not what he was there for at the time.
So many people there.
I was more interested in telling him about the dog and hearing about what he intended to do search and rescue-wise.
She brushed it off and acted like she didn't want to talk about it, which was fine. We didn't need to.
As part of the puppy's sale, Cheryl threw in 8 free obedience lessons.
Very good.
As we were training the dog over these 8 training sessions, we enjoyed spending time together, and our focus was on the dog. And that was a lot of fun.
Underneath.
That started our friendship. Hopefully you won't get too frustrated with me.
Well, I try not to. I think I...
He was the first person that I've been around besides family and that didn't seem to see the scars, didn't care what I looked like. I mean, he was like having a human dog and treated me like a human being.
Oh, good girl.
And it just seemed like we got back more energy than we put into this relationship, and we just became really good friends.
Tell me about search and rescue.
It wasn't until I invited her over for dinner on Mother's Day that it went beyond just training dogs and just spending the time working with the dogs.
The issue of my accident had never really come up again. During dinner, I finally asked him,
What do you remember about it?
Are you sure you want to talk about it?
so all was such a blur to me that hearing other people's perspectives of it helped me put a lot of pieces together.
And what did you say to me?
Well, you complained about being cold, and I told her that I had said, don't worry about it. I told you just to hang in there, that we take care of everything. And this look came over her face, and she just kind of smiled, and she said, you're the voice that I've been looking for.
That was you?
That was me.
I can't believe it.
And I just got really quiet.
Well, the day of my accident, that's what I remember the most, is someone talking to me, a voice. You're the voice.
That was the point in which I realized that this was the person that went with my little God voice that I'd remembered all these years.
Nobody was able to tell me.
But I didn't want it to change our relationship because now we had this connection.
But Cheryl was about to learn that you can't prevent change, especially when it's being guided by love.
I don't know when I started falling in love with her, you know. I fought being in love or allowing myself to be in love with her for a long while because I didn't want an accident to be the focal part of our relationship. Cheryl knew, and she kept telling me everything would be okay. Well, I didn't believe her. Okay, so now that you got everything oriented, you can look on the map, but I wanted to make certain that it was right. I did not want to have our relationship go bad.
Oh, okay, like that.
I did not want to be the one to hurt Cheryl, ever. Okay, so now we don't need the map anymore.
Okay.
I did fall in love with him. We had that bond, and I didn't really know how all that was going to play out, but I was willing to see what happened, and I got to like him a lot more than I expected to.
On July 13, 1994, 11 years after the tragic accident that brought them together, Kevin and Cheryl embraced the joy that life had been saving just for them.
When we decided that we were going to get married, we wanted to get married because we wanted to spend the rest of our lives together.
So pretty. I was so surprised when you gave it to me.
You deserve it. And having big weddings and big to-dos and that kind of stuff is just not us. And so we ran off to Lake Tahoe and got married. Just the two of us.
We don't have any wedding pictures other than a caricature that was drawn on a boat called the Tahoe Queen. And it kind of reminds me of our whole relationship. We didn't meet the way people normally meet, and when we decided to get married, we didn't do it the way people normally do. So for us to not have a wedding picture kind of goes along with it. I love the wedding picture that we have, so, you know, it fits us.
Today, nearly 20 years after their miraculous meeting, the love that brought Kevin and Cheryl together continues on.
Kevin's love for me has changed my whole life because I didn't think somebody could love me. Everything that I have, I could live without, other than him. He means more than the world to me.
I love her with all my heart. She's my soul. She's everything that's good that happens in my life. It's definitely a miracle that she survived and left the burn unit and then went home and was able to make her recovery. And then the miracle that we reunited. It was a miracle that Cheryl didn't just brush me aside when I brought up her accident. She didn't want to talk about it. But every day is a miracle because we have it to share together. And I'm really looking forward to the rest of my life.
When you see a story like Kevin and Cheryl's, it's hard not to believe that some people are destined to meet and that Cupid will find them no matter what the circumstances. Well, the Rolfs have been very busy since their marriage, and we wanted to check up on them. They join us now from their home in Newberry, Florida. Hello there, how are you?
We're good, Richard. How about you?
I'm just fine. And I hear that you've been up to some amazing things. First of all, Cheryl, you recently made history of sorts. Would you like to tell us about that?
Yes, I was the first woman in the country certified by the National Association for Search and Rescue to certify other people to be search and rescue qualified.
Is that something that grew out of your own rescue?
Partly. Of course, when I met Kevin, he got me interested in utilizing the dogs to do search and rescue along with other training that I had already done in the past.
And I understand that the two of you were involved with a charitable foundation that sends children to a special camp.
Well, Cheryl was one of the charter members of the Southeast Burn Foundation. And the Burn Foundation purchases supplies and materials for burn survivors, and then also as part of their activities, they send children to burn camp so that they have an opportunity to meet other burn survivors that are their own age. It helps them feel a little more accepted, a little more part of a group, and helps with their recovery process.
That must be very rewarding.
It's great because being a burn survivor myself, it's a little easier for those people to be able to relate to me and help them feel like there's somebody who can listen and knows what they're going through and who has gotten beyond where they're at now. And that's part of our goal, is to let them know that, you know, where they're at now is bad, but it's going to get better, and it will get better, it does.
And you're living proof of that. I want to wish you both continued happiness.
Well, thank you very much, and good night.
Goodbye. In our next story, a series of tragic events forces two people to re-examine their lives, and in the process, they discover each other. Now, that may not sound very miraculous, but when you discover who they were and what they meant to each other, You'll understand why this was truly a miracle. Jackie Van Allen had always dreamed of a picture-perfect life, and when she met her future husband, Skip Cassio, it seemed that her dream had come true.
He was on the dance floor, and I thought, this is what I want. He's a great dancer, and we met, fell in love, and we got married.
And then it was happiness ever after.
In short order, the Cassio family grew as Jackie gave birth to two beautiful boys. Joey was the oldest, and Kevin was 4 years younger.
Kevin was shy a little bit. He kept his emotions inside a lot like his father does. Joey was the bubbly child who was very much like me. He was a happy child. He just loved everybody. Our family life was the most beautiful of all family lives. I had a wonderful husband, two fine sons. We worked together, we prayed together. It was just unbelievable.
Then in 1980, at the age of 16, Joey Cassio got a summer job at a local filling station.
He was just learning how to drive, and he was saving for a pickup truck. So we would take him down to the station and we would pick him up.
But when Joey's father went to pick him up on the night of August 11th, their daily routine was shattered by a tragic event.
I just pulled in, I jumped out of the car, and two officers approached me.
Good evening, sir. Are you Mr. Cassio? Do you have a son named Joseph?
Yeah, where is Joey?
And then the one officer said to me, he said, your son was shot. And I had said, shot? What do you mean, shot?
The officer explained that Joey had been fatally wounded during an attempted robbery. Joey's life ended that night, and in a way, so did his mother's.
The grief was unbelievable. I was absolutely in such terrible, terrible pain, and my mother kept telling me, you know, hold on a little longer. And I go, Mother, I just can't.
Oh, it was terrible. They were angry at God. They couldn't understand why their beloved son was killed the way he was, shot right through the heart.
Grace Van Allen did her best to comfort her grieving daughter, but Jackie was inconsolable.
One day she said to me, Mother, I can't bear this pain, the loss of Joe. It's terrible. What am I going to do? She didn't want to live.
At about the same time, on the opposite side of the country, a young man named Anthony Cellino was experiencing a similar sense of grief.
I was 17 when my mother passed away, and I was devastated. My father worked for the government, and my mother stayed at home and took care of me and my three sisters. I was spoiled. I was the youngest in the family. I couldn't ask for anything better. My mom was everything to me. I never realized what death was all about until my mom passed away. When she passed away, it was pretty traumatic in my life. I just missed her so much. I always knew that I was adopted, but I would never look for my biological mother as long as my mom was alive. She would have been too hurt. I think the first time I really got some information was, I guess, in my dad's office. I started snooping around, and I went in some adoption papers, and it was quite interesting. I tried to send away for the lawyers that handled the case. Some were deceased. A lot of people were gone. You know, that was back in '62, so I had a lot of dead leads going nowhere.
As time passed, Jackie Cassio continued to try to numb her unrelenting pain.
Jackie didn't get it together for quite a few years. It was really tough. I mean, she, started drinking a lot.
I went to alcohol because I thought that it would ease the terrible pain, and it didn't. It was worse.
Jackie just can't go in anymore.
She was just dwelling on her son, Joseph. which was the apple of her eye and everything. You have to move on.
You have me, you have Kevin.
And I screamed at him, I'm grieving for 2 boys, 2 children that I lost.
That's what are you talking, 2 sons?
For the first time in their 17 years together, Jackie shared her painful story. She was only 18 years old when she found herself in a terrible predicament.
I met this young man. I fell very much in love with him, and I became pregnant. He was a very jealous man, and the jealousy was insanely jealous.
I don't want to be with this guy.
I told my mother that it would never work, and she said, whatever you want to do, if you want to keep the child, I will help you.
I want the baby to have a mother and a father.
My mother raised the 3 of us without a father, and she was never there because she was working. I didn't want that for my son. I wanted him to have a family.
So I heard about the Catholic Charities, and I went to see them, and they said they could take her in.
6 months later, Jackie gave birth to a healthy baby boy named Francis.
I grieved for my son that I gave up for adoption, but I also knew in my heart that it was the best for him.
Soon afterward, Jackie met Skip Cassio.
I don't know if I should tell him.
But before she married him, she visited her priest to ask for advice.
And he said, no, don't tell him. That's between you, God, and your baby.
Jackie kept that secret in her heart for the next 17 years.
I laid in bed many, many, many nights thinking about my first child, and I wanted to look him up. And then I thought that I'm just not whole enough yet. And my mother always told me, in God's time, in God's time.
As time passed, Tony Cellino got married and started a family. As he watched his wife Melody with their 2 little daughters, he began thinking about his own birth mother.
I think he always wondered what she was like and really wanted to meet her.
Okay, I'm 3, 1.
What my goal was in either finding my father or my mother was that they would give me medical information. If they didn't want to meet me, all I would ask is that I wanted to know something biological. I have a family now, and that was important, and in my life too, as well as my children. But finding my mother first was the main priority.
After several attempts at trying to locate information, Tony received his adoption papers, but most of the important facts were blocked out.
Look what it says there. But in one of the paragraphs down below, they did not block out the name Jackie. My mom's name is Jackie. And then on that second page was the name Van Allen. Jackie Van Allen, that must be it.
Tony also discovered that he'd been named Francis and was born in Broward County, Florida.
So that's when I really got excited. And I thought, God, could it be this simple that someone 38 years ago just messed up and didn't cover up some names? Because most of them were blotted out.
Armed with this new information, Tony got on the internet to try and track down his birth mother.
I found 48 Van Allens in the state of Florida. And I thought, hey, I'm going to send them all a generic letter that I'm looking for Jackie Van Allen. 48 letters, surely someone will know a Jackie Van Allen.
But Tony's optimism soon turned to disappointment.
Letters started coming back, return to sender. I started getting disillusioned about the whole thing. I really didn't think I would find her.
But one of his letters reached Margie Van Allen, a recent divorcee who had reverted back to her maiden name. Intrigued by who could be looking for her sister, Margie called Anthony Cellino.
There was a message on my machine saying, "This is Margie Van Allen. My sister is alive and well, and her name's Jackie Van Allen. She lives right down the street from me." I was like, oh, could this be really it? Could this be it? And I called her number and hung up several times. I'd call and hang up. I think I called and hung up 10 times before I could get enough courage to actually talk to her. Hello, may I speak to Margie Van Allen, please?
This is she.
Marjorie, this is I introduced myself, and really, what I said was, does a Francis mean anything to you?
Of course it does.
And I said, I think we know what we're talking about. And we both knew. I said, I think I found my mother, didn't I? She said, yes. Oh my God, you must be my Aunt Margie.
I guess I am. I'm just tickled pink. Just tickled pink is probably an understatement. I was thrilled.
I was just in another world when I knew that I'd found my mother, talking to my aunt on the phone.
Tony, I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to call my sister and let her know what's happened and arrange a time for her to call you.
I was alone at the time, so it was pretty emotional for me. And I called my wife, said, you won't believe it, but I found my aunt. I found my mom. Well, I'm gonna know soon. So it was incredible.
2 days later, Tony Cellino finally heard the voice of the woman who'd given him life.
Hello?
Hello, Tony. Tony, this is your mom.
How are you?
How are you?
Well, I'm doing fine. I couldn't be happier right
Oh my God, I can't believe it. Can you?
now. No, I can't believe it.
We just talked and talked. It was like I've known him all my life. And then I said, I don't want to take your mother's place. She has raised you. She loved you. She cared for you. All the things I wanted for you. And then I hear this voice on the phone saying, but you are my mother. And it just touched me when he said that. I started to get teary-eyed. And I said, yes, I am.
I said I couldn't believe it. I just kept on saying, I cannot believe it. Cannot believe it. Couldn't believe it.
1 month later, Tony was on his way to the Knoxville airport to meet his newfound family.
I guess I probably shouldn't have drove to the airport because I was all over the road. I've never been so nervous in my life. All I knew that when I saw my mother, that I wanted to hug her and hug my aunt, my family.
It was like, oh my God, I'm holding him for the first time in my life. And you know what I thought in my mind? In God's time. Everything happens in God's time.
Oh, man. Is this wonderful?
I feel better. I feel better.
I guess you wonder if people are going to be reserved or real open. And to see them both throw their arms around each other was wonderful.
Here I am at 93. I got to see my grandson. Isn't that wonderful?
Go in the house, stay in the house.
Finding my mom was totally a long shot. And never in my wildest dreams would I think it would turn out to be this way.
My cup runneth over. His wife is superb. And the girls call me Grandma, and it just melts my heart.
Finding her was basically a miracle. 38 years ago, somebody at an adoption agency left that name there for me to find.
Hello.
And after divorce, kept her maiden name.
This is she.
All the other things just fell into place, and just incredible how it all came about.
I can't begin to tell you the joy in my heart. It just keeps getting better and better and better and better. It's magnificent.
We end our show with another incredible story of a stranger coming to the rescue. What makes it particularly remarkable is that this guardian angel was captured on videotape. It's a video miracle that takes us to Indian Lake in Ontario, Canada, where a 76-year-old woman is trapped in a boat spinning out of control. The boat had been spinning in circles for several minutes when Evelyn Bryan's yacht sailed by.
We thought, oh my goodness, what's happening? And then we saw people in water and we just didn't know what to do.
Rick Faulkner, a friend of the victim, was watching from his dinghy.
I knew that they had a full tank of gas. And I knew that Lee had had a heart condition a few years earlier. And this is no easy thing to be hanging on the side of the boat.
With every idea that we had to help her, we thought, well, no, this may hurt her even more. Finally, this boat seems that out of nowhere shows up.
Dave Adams and his family had been sailing nearby when they heard the woman's screams.
It's like hearing a child screaming from a burning building. You do what you gotta do. And so you're either gonna sit there and watch her die or you're gonna prevent it. To me, that's no choice. My plan was to jump out of the boat I was in into the boat that she was hanging onto, and it didn't quite work out as planned. I ended up hanging onto the side. I thought, well, you missed, but you're still, you can still do something. You got a hold of this boat, and all you have to do is pull yourself in. But that proved to be a little harder than I thought.
Now there were two people hanging on for their lives.
Well, when I saw him hanging on the other side of the boat, I was very happy to have company. Really, it just about then I was beginning to think, what am I really going to do? As there wasn't much of anything that I personally could do.
I looked over, I could see her. I said, hang on, honey. I didn't want her to let go now. Hang on, honey. This other guy, Mr. Faulkner, was circling around watching, trying to help. And he got too close and we actually collided.
I took a shot at the boat myself, which I shouldn't have done. It was probably a stupid maneuver, but I wanted to try, and I nearly wiped David off the side of the boat.
I thought, that's it, break time's over, we got to get in this boat.
When he got in the boat, we hear one of his children say, turn it off, Dad, turn it off.
There was another guy in the water at that point to help Mrs. DeWitt. And I just sat there and like, wow, I did it.
It's a strange feeling to know that somebody risked his life to save your life. I really think that he is a true hero, and I'm eternally grateful to him.
If Mrs. DeWitt has a guardian angel, I think that Mr. Adams is her guardian angel. I think he just arrived in time.
Well, that's our show for now. Thank you for joining us. And a special thanks to all the people who shared their remarkable stories on It's a Miracle. It's our hope that whenever you need one, you'll find a miracle in your life too. Until next time, I'm Richard Thomas. Goodbye.